I am a very stylish girl.
Hey everybody, Tribal Butterfly is back again. Okay, now I wanted to do a follow-up video with my beautiful snake. And first things first, I guess I should let you guys know what his name turned out to be. I really want to thank everybody for their awesome suggestions. And I thought a lot of them were really cool, but I didn't feel that they really fit himself and his personality and his look perfectly. What we ended up actually naming him was Henry Jones Jr. And I'm going to explain why. So, as you may know, in my house, we are huge movie buffs, and we especially like the classics. And Henry Jones Jr. is the real name of Indiana Jones, who, as we know, is afraid of snakes. So we thought it was going to be a really fun pun to name him Henry Jones Jr., and for short, we call him Dr. Jones, or Indiana, or Indy, or Snakeface, or Professor Slithers, or Dr. Hiss. So yeah, he's got many names, but his real official name is Henry Jones Jr. So I'd like to introduce Henry Jones Jr. to the rest of the world. Now, the reaction that I got from a few people on YouTube and in real life, well, I get two reactions when I tell people that I have a pet snake. Happily, most of the reactions have been, oh my god, that's so cool. But I do also get the reaction from people, ew, that's gross, that's disgusting, and I have to tell you guys, that's actually a really hurtful reaction to give someone. I understand if you don't like snakes. I mean, I don't like kids. I don't. But, I mean, if I see someone has a kid, or if I see someone who's pregnant, although it might be my first initial response to say, ew, what a mistake, or see a pregnant woman and say, ew, that's so disgusting, that's totally gross, that's my initial response, and that's not something that I can really, change. But, I mean, I don't voice it. I don't go up to a pregnant lady and say, wow, that's hideous, even though maybe for me that's what I'm thinking. So, I have enough respect for the person who, decided to do something that I think is gross, not to tell them that I think it's gross. And I think that that same courtesy should be extended to everyone. So, I mean, if you don't think snakes are cool, and if they're not your cup of tea, that's fine. Nobody's forcing you to have one. But, I mean, be respectful and considerate that it's what I like, and, I shouldn't be ridiculed for my loving them. And I find that most people who dislike snakes, they just don't know very much about them. And, for lack of a better word, it's just ignorance, because they haven't been properly educated, and their opinions of snakes have been skewed by the media. So, yeah, it's something that, it's like trying a new food. You really shouldn't judge it until you've educated yourself about it a wee bit, right? So all I ask is that people have an open mind about things and not be so quick to judge, okay? So this is Henry Jones Jr., and as you can see, he's very tame, and he's just turned a year old now, so I've had him for about 2 months, and he's never bitten. Actually, one thing that people are always scared of with snakes is they're scared they're going to get bitten. And especially with ball pythons, which is what he is, they are not really known for biting. They almost rarely ever bite, and when they do, it is usually an accident. It's usually that you've made a mistake while you were feeding them, so they accidentally got you instead of the food. But yeah, their first initial defensive response is to roll up into a tiny ball and hide their heads. So that's actually why they're called ball pythons, is because their initial response when they're afraid is to wrap themselves up into a little ball. And they're quite actually timid creatures. So they're actually known as a starter snake because they're so docile. So yeah, he is a ball python, and he's a super pastel ball python, and that's how he gets his color and his pattern. It's from being a super pastel. And as you can see, he uses his strength of his body to hold on to me. I'm not holding on to him at all. He can hold on to me all by himself. Snakes are not slimy. They are not sticky. They're very dry, very leather-like animal. He has scales, so he uses his scales to climb, and he uses the muscles of his body by constricting and releasing his muscles to move and to climb and to, do everything he needs to do. And it's a very strong animal because he has no arms, no legs. He has to be very strong because he uses his muscles for everything. So the reason why I chose a snake, there were lots of reasons. At first we were thinking of getting a dog, but our building does not allow dogs. Then we thought cat, but I'm particularly not a cat person. I am also quite a bit allergic to cats, which I didn't used to be, but kind of started a couple years ago. So cats are not good for me. I really wanted to get a rat, but turns out I'm allergic to those too, which was really unfortunate. Didn't want fish because you can't really play with them. Didn't want a lizard because I don't want to keep bugs in the house. At first we decided not to get a snake because we thought we were going to have to feed it live animal. And turns out no, it's actually preferred to feed a snake frozen thawed rats. So we have some frozen rats that we keep in the freezer, and we just defrost them whenever it's time for him to feed, and we give him that. And it's actually much safer for the snake because when it's frozen it kills any bacteria that's on the rat, so it keeps him healthy. Also, I don't have to worry about a rat defending itself and scratching or biting and hurting him. So it's much safer to feed your snakes frozen food. And because snakes only eat once per week at the very most currently, you only have to feed them one rat a week at most, and rats are like a few cents each, so it's really cheap to feed them. I spent like 30 bucks on rats, and he's going to have enough food for more than half the year, so that's fantastic. Right, baby? Yeah, snuggly baby. Yeah, snuggly baby. Yeah, he's happy. So yeah, they're a very low expense animal. Once you buy the snake and you buy the things that they need in their tank, which really, I mean, the amount of expense that you pay is totally up to you. You can get by with just keeping them in a Tupperware with some paper towel on the bottom and some Tupperware jars for like a watering dish and something for them to hide in. That's all you really have to do. And honestly, people who keep them in nice glass containers with like sexy looking water bowls and hides, that's extra money that you're spending just because you want it to look pretty for you. He doesn't care. So yeah, really inexpensive. The most important thing about your snake's habitat is to make sure he has one side of it that's hot and one side of it that's cold. And because the snake is a reptile, he is not able to thermoregulate his own temperature. So he needs a hot side to warm himself up when he's cold, and a cool side to cool himself down when he's too hot. And he does that all by himself. So that's really the most important thing, is that you keep the cage humid enough for him, because if it's too dry, then they won't be able to shed their scales properly when it's time for them to. And if you keep it too wet, they can get scale rot, and that's not good for them either. So the most important thing about keeping your snake healthy is that you keep it hot on one side, cool on the other, and not too humid but not too dry. Right now? Right, my love. Other reasons why snakes make the perfect pet for me and my lifestyle is because not only is he low expense, but he's actually super low maintenance. I can keep him in the cage and he doesn't mind. He's totally happy being left alone in there. However, if I feel like taking him out and playing with him, look at him. He's totally fine. I can play with him all I want. I can watch him all I want because he's totally gorgeous, beautiful, and fascinating. But if I don't have time for him, he doesn't care. And because he only eats once a week, that means I only have to worry about feeding him once a week. It also means I only have to worry about cleaning up poop once a week. And what's really cool about snakes' poop, and especially their urine, is because they utilize so much of their prey that when they pee, It's actually not even a liquid. It comes out as a little white crystal rock, and you just pick it up and you throw it in the garbage can. It's awesome. They're super quiet animals, so you don't have to worry about noise. They won't wake you up with barking in the middle of the night or anything like that. Right, Louie? Mama loves you. Mama loves you so much. He doesn't shed any fur, so that's fantastic. No cleanup. I don't have to worry about cutting nails because he doesn't have any feet. And no litter box, so don't have to worry about buying any of that. What else? I don't have to worry about taking him for walks if I don't have time because he doesn't need them. Like I said, they don't bite. I don't have to train him to do anything because he's pretty tame and just does his own thing. So yeah, they're really low maintenance animals. They even rarely ever get sick. As long as you keep their cage the right temperatures and the right humidity, they don't really ever get sick. So you don't have to worry about that. Really, you just have to make sure everything is good in their cage and that they don't get mites, and that's all. And they have a ridiculously long lifespan. Your snake can live between 20 to 40 years. So it's a great investment of a pet because not only do they not take that much money or that much effort to keep, but they'll live very long. So they'll stay with you practically forever. I could potentially be in my 70s when this guy dies. So that's kind of awesome. As for how much a snake actually costs, it depends on the snake that you get. I've seen snakes sell for $50. I've seen snakes sell for $25,000. It's because, see the pattern and the coloring? By mixing different breeds of snakes together, you can get different new colors and patterns, and that's kind of amazing. So, I could just watch you all day. You're so pretty. So yeah, it can take years to get a specific kind of look on your snake by generations upon generations upon generations of breeding. And males and females will go for different prices too because breeding is a really huge thing for snakes. A lot of people are really heavy duty into breeding. So yeah, really crazy. You can get them for all kinds of prices. Right, my dearest love? He's my love. I love him so much. I actually bought so many snake bracelets and rings and necklaces now because I'm just so infatuated with snakes at this point. But yeah, as you guys can see, really tame, really sweet animal, very quiet, very accommodating, and I've actually had a bunch of people over my house who are terrified of snakes, and within a few minutes, they were like totally petting him and holding him, and he's very affectionate, very calm, very sweet. So yeah, this is Henry Jones Jr., and I'm so thrilled to be introducing him to you by name, and I hope you guys like him. I hope that now that you know more about snakes, hopefully you won't judge them so harshly. They're actually incredibly sweet animals. They love like people, and they're quite interesting, very interesting, very beautiful creatures. So I hope that you don't have to love them, you don't have to own one, but I hope that people will just be more tolerant of them and a little less ignorant.
I am a very stylish girl.